Hoje eu estou aqui com o Dr. Souto, que você já conhece, estou aqui com o Josh e também um convidado super especial que eu vou apresentar logo, tá? Assim, o emagrecerdeves.com está crescendo bastante, tá? Que eu acho que as fronteiras nacionais já não são mais suficientes para segurar o conhecimento, tá? Então, aí você vai entender logo o porquê disso que eu estou dizendo. Então, os benefícios de uma alimentação correta, de uma alimentação saudável, como a gente fala no site, tá? E nesse videocast, podcast, eles vão muito além do imaginado pela maioria das pessoas. E os resultados são realmente impressionantes e muito notórios e duradouros, que também é importante, tá? Então, por isso, nós temos que gritar realmente o mais alto possível para que essas informações possam chegar à maior quantidade de pessoas possível, tá? E por isso, aqui no Emagrecer de Vez também, a gente está nos esforçando o máximo possível para trazer sempre o melhor, mais atual e mais verdadeiro conhecimento do mundo sobre nutrição e saúde. Então, hoje, tá, é um dia muito importante aqui para o Emagrecer de Vez, para o nosso videocast podcast, porque eu trouxe para conversar com a gente o Dr. Andreas Enfeldt, que é um médico famoso na Suécia, tá, e é bastante conhecido também mundo afora. Tá? Ele participa das principais convenções internacionais sobre obesidade, saúde, e também já entrevistou várias pessoas famosas da área, inclusive tá, o Gary Taubes também, que é autor do livro Why We Get Fat, do Good Calories, Bad Calories. Enfim, é uma pessoa realmente que eu admiro muito e venho seguindo o trabalho dele há muito tempo. E ele, muito gentilmente, concordou a participar aqui no nosso videocast, tá? Só que assim, nós vamos hoje quebrar aqui vários mitos e discutir também formas de facilitar a vida de quem quer viver nesses moldes de uma alimentação verdadeiramente correta, tá? E assim como o Dr. Andreas prega, assim como o Dr. Souto prega, e a gente prega aqui também no Emagrecer de Vez, ok? Agora é o seguinte, o Dr. Andreas, como ele é sueco, né, ele não fala português, infelizmente. Mas não se preocupe que a gente vai colocar aqui legendas para que você possa seguir sem problema nenhum a nossa conversa. Agora, se você fala inglês, então não tem problema nenhum, você pode seguir tranquilamente, ok? Então agora eu vou mudar para inglês para que todo mundo comece, então, a discutir os assuntos de hoje que são bastante interessantes, ok? Então, ok. Now switching to English, finally, Dr. Andreas. Now you can follow with us. Well, what we recommend and always discuss here on the website is incredible benefits of an intelligent, low-carb, lifelong diet for everyone that really wants to lose weight effectively and live better. But as we know, the modern so-called gurus and a lot of doctors and media and governments, of course, they're still spreading misconceptions and dangerous information as healthy guidelines. So therefore, I want to focus our conversation on myth destruction today here. We're going to put down a lot of myths. I think it's very important. The big ones, mainly, okay? So first of all, we know that carbs drive insulin, that drives fat, right? We know that short phrase. But carbohydrates are fattening, and we never ate so much carbohydrates in history, I think, in humanity, right? So saying that as an introduction, I want to start right away talking about this first big myth, which is carbs are required for any healthy diet. That's the big myth I want to talk about. We can talk about a bit of the science behind it. Is carbs, the way we eat today, really essential to a healthy diet? So I want to open discussions about it. I think you can talk a lot about it, but let's see what comes out. First of all, Dr. Andreas, welcome, and thank you very much for participating here.
Thank you so much. I'm glad to be here.
Yes, I want to know, well, now it's an open discussion, really. It's very informal, as we always do here. So the topic right now is the carbs are required for a healthy diet. I want to know your thoughts about this, or what you know about science about. Are carbs really required, essential for a healthy human diet? What do you think about it?
I would say no. I mean, carbs are optional. There's no essential carbohydrates. We can live fine without carbs, and if we no carbs, then our bodies are gonna use fat for energy, and maybe we need like 20 grams a day or something of carbohydrates, glucose, and the body can produce that from fat and protein. So we don't need carbs. It's an optional fuel.
Because the main argument, I think, a lot of nutritionists, they say that it is required because of the fact that the brain needs some glucose to work, right? So based on that fact, they imagine that we need to eat carbs so the brain can work. So what do you think about that?
Yeah, say it's a misconception. It's wrong. It's based on the fact that if you eat a lot of carbs, then the brain will burn glucose for fuel. It's going to burn like 120 grams a day or something. But if you don't eat that many carbs, then the brain will turn to an alternative fuel called ketones, which is manufactured in the liver from fat. So this whole idea that the brain needs carbs is just wrong. It's wrong.
And science has been showing that the brain actually works better on ketones, right?
Maybe for some people, maybe in some circumstances, maybe in most circumstances, I don't know, but it works fine at least.
Yeah, because I've read a lot of people tell that they just feel better, that their brain is just more mental clarity when they are on ketones.
Some people feel that, sure.
And Dr. Andres, you've put in your site a very interesting video of children playing with carbs and with a healthy snack, and their behavior is completely different. So actually, a lot of simple refined carbs may be bad for the brain, right?
Yeah, possibly. I mean, that is a controversial subject for sure, but a lot of people think so. I mean, a lot of people watch their kids on, drinking a lot of soda, eating a lot of crappy carbs, and they're behaving in one way, maybe not that great, and then they eat better food and they behave better. So possibly.
Yeah, I think what they observe in this experiment specifically they were talking about, that they fed a group of children with healthy snacks, and the other group of children they fed with like soda and typical party foods. And they observed that the behavior of the party food group was actually more like less stable, I would say. They were less concentrated, right? It seems like they have these peaks of high activity, and they are a bit more aggressive maybe, they talked about in the experiment. So I see this going up and down as a behavior that's usually common when you eat like this fast carbs, for example. What do you think about that?
I think the reason this is controversial is because in the 80s and 90s they did several experiments giving children sugar to see if they got hyperactive, and they didn't really. But the thing with these experiments is that the dose was kind of small. It's like one soda or something. And if you take kids to a birthday party, they don't just drink one can of soda. They eat a lot of stuff. So the question is, if they get more bad carbs, do their behavior get worse? And it could be. It could be.
Yeah, in a typical party, they get an overload of carbs, right?
Yeah, I think so.
The influence on their behavior may be controversial, but the influence on their health and their body fat status,
sure,
I think is uncontroversial, right?
It should be, yeah, it should be.
No,
Doctor, another common myth here in Brazil about ketones is about ketoacidosis. Can you tell us a little bit about that?
It's also a common myth that if you eat very low amount of carbs, your body is going to become acidic, and your pH is going to drop, and you're going to end up in the emergency room, based on this idea that you could end up in ketoacidosis, which is basically something completely different. It's connected to type 1 diabetes and a very, very severe lack of insulin. And you don't get that on a low-carb diet. You get something else called ketosis, which is a natural state for the body where the ketone levels in the body are very strictly regulated, so they don't get out of control like in the ketoacidosis state. So ketoacidosis is something that you could risk if you're a type 1 diabetic and you stop taking insulin. But it's not something you get on a low-carb diet. That is called ketosis. It's something else. It's just a natural state.
Yeah, very good to put it in very clear words. It's usually a subject that comes out. Yeah, that's true. I think that's a very good discussion for the carbs, because we have many myths to cover here today. So I just want to go forward, right? I think people are thirsty for information. So the next big one, maybe one of the biggest myths in the history of nutrition, I don't know, is that fat is bad for your health and bad for your heart. Okay, so first thing, when we actually suggest a low-carb diet and we tell people that, okay, you should eat more like healthy fats, you should really increase your healthy fat consumption. That means even saturated fat, of course, the natural fat. People open their eyes very wide, right? Because, I mean, saturated fat means bad things. I mean, everyone grew up with this conception. I did as well. It was a big thing. And it still is a very, very big thing. So the myth is, fat is bad for your heart and for your health. Now I want to open discussion about it. What do you think about it?
I think it's fine. Fat is fine. Natural fat is fine. Saturated fat is fine. I used to believe it too. I mean, I was trained as a doctor back in the 90s, and I was taught that saturated fat is bad because it raises your cholesterol, the cholesterol levels in your blood, and that's what's giving you heart disease. But it's not true. It's a theory that has been tested over and over again, and it's never been proven. There's been a lot of studies done where they take one group of people and they try to make them eat less saturated fat compared to another group that keeps eating like they used to, and there's never any difference, any significant difference in these trials. So it's a theory that has been tested for 60 years, and it always turns out to be false.
Yeah, in 2011 they had the great fat debate, right? And they concluded, I want to quote here, because I translated to Portuguese, I want to translate back to English. They say, even though this paradigm that says that saturated fat cause heart disease have been spread so much during the last decades, the modern nutrition has shown no evidence to support this paradigm. And they say, in regards to the heart problems, there's the evidence actually suggests the opposite. They suggest a protective effect of saturated fat instead of what is actually told to people. So this was said in 2011 as a conclusion of the great fat debate, and I call it something that could be a conclusion, a scientific conclusion after like decades of studies about it, right?
Yeah, and I mean, there was a paper, a meta-analysis published in a very prestigious journal this spring called the British Medical Journal, and they looked at all the studies where you make people switch from saturated fat like butter to omega-6 polyunsaturated fats like corn oil or things like that. And if you look at all these trials, it's actually suggestive that the risk of heart disease goes up and not down. So meaning if you stop eating butter and eggs and you start eating a lot of plant oils like corn oil and safflower oil, you're actually going to increase your risk of heart disease, according to the best science there is.
It is appalling for me because, you know, a lot of nutritional studies, they are very bad in terms of design. They are retrospective, they are just correlational, but the one area that has been tested with the highest level of evidence is saturated fat, and it's definitely been proven that it's at the worst it is a neutral fat. It may not be great, but it's not bad for you. So